Your word. Great. Welcome everyone to today's Donor Dialogue. I will be featuring the incredible work of some amazing Black leaders in the Bay Area, and we'll be starting with a brief video to get us started.
To be clear, this initiative would not have existed without the rebellion that happened in 2020, without our people taking to the streets and making it known that we are still here and we are relevant and we will not be left out. This initiative was funded by the San Francisco Foundation, and it invites 18 Black-led organizations across the Bay Area to convene quarterly for 2 years to build power and unity across the region.
What is the Bese Saka initiative?
Bese Saka is community.
Bese Saka is liberation.
Bese Saka is discipline.
Bese Saka is love. Bese Saka is super Black.
Bese Saka, Bese Saka.
I think today I feel a lot of power when I can work with others and share it with others and connect people to help meet people's needs.
Being able to call out white supremacy and its roots anywhere, anytime is one of the moments that I feel the most powerful.
The idea was to infuse resources into these organizations. And so working with Brotherhood, the idea of the Bese Saka initiative came up. And so, funding these 18 organizations, bringing them together to talk about this collective work, this collective liberation, tell us what we should be funding.
The most important element of Black organizing, I believe, is shared purpose. But as long as we understand what brings us together, where our shared purpose is, and where we all stand to win, right? Even if it's just one organization leading it or one person, if that person wins, the place where we all win, that's the most important element.
Bese Saka is sustainability.
Bese Saka is Black radical imagination.
Bese Saka is opportunity.
Bese Saka is the work.
Great. Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Nicole Kayak and I serve as the Director of Philanthropic Services. I have the privilege of working with incredible individuals who are going to join us on this call to really talk about the shared purpose that you heard about in the video. I am calling in from unceded Ohlone land, and we have a practice of doing a land acknowledgement to acknowledge the erasure of Native people and the violence that they have faced. We invite you to introduce yourself in the chat with your name and where you're calling in from, and you'll see that there's a map of Indigenous tribal lands that you can find where you're calling in from. I would love to introduce my colleague Brandon to talk about this shared purpose and hear directly from some of the folks that you saw and heard from in the video. So Brandon, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Nicole, and hello, everyone. Great to see you. Happy Thursday to everybody. And even before we go into the shared purpose, I think we'll start with just an introduction of who we are as a team. So I'll start and then pass it to my other Bese Saka colleagues. So Brandon Johns again. Charlie, it's good to see you and great to see others from our team on here as well. I am the program officer for the costume program and at the San Francisco Foundation. Prior to that, I was the executive director and founder of an organization in DC for mentorship for youth for the past 11 years, named Making a New United People. Prior to that, I was a policy analyst for the NAACP, someone like a junior lobbyist, working on issues of racial and ethnic discrimination. And then before that was a program staffer for the United States Congress Judiciary Committee. So I'd like to pass it to Aman, if you want to give your introduction as well.
Thanks, Brandon. Good to see everyone. My name is Aman Sabatu. I'm one of the coordinators of the Bese Saka initiative, representing the Brotherhood of the Elders Network. I used to serve on the board of the Brotherhood of the Elders Network until the end of last year. And I wear a lot of hats, but in my full-time job, I'm the director of justice at this nonprofit called Evident Change, which is based in Oakland. I'm currently in Oakland, and I've been working in criminal justice reform, violence prevention for over 10 years, my entire career, and mostly on the policy side, doing research, evaluation, a lot of technical assistance, and working in movement, and with trying to support a lot of the organizers and advocates in the committee that are trying to push for a reimagined criminal justice and public safety system. And I will pass it to my colleague Quentin.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Quentin Sankofa, and I am representing the Brotherhood of Elders Network today. I am one of their lead consultants. I've been with the group since it was pretty much created about 10, 12 years ago. Started off as a volunteer in the group, and as the group kind of grew and our projects changed and got more ambitious, I was hired on as a contractor to help develop the organization. My background is in nonprofit management and development, as well as urban and regional planning. I also help co-direct another nonprofit called Movement Generation. So as our worlds overlap and circles collide, you may see me in other spaces as well. But for the Brotherhood, I play a number of different roles. One of the roles I play is to help manage the Bese Saka initiative. I also do our grant writing and individual donor cultivation strategies, as well as do some meeting facilitation and planning. I'm going to pass it over now to my colleague, Mizan, for an introduction.
Thank you, Q. Greetings, everyone. Definitely honored to be here with you all for this meaningful conversation. I love the pieces around reimagining love. Let's definitely do that process as we think about it. My name again is Mizan. I am here in this space as a consultant with the Brotherhood of Elders Network, supporting the program development of the Bese Saka initiative. I am also the co-creator of an organization called Spirit Works, which works to inspire intergenerational wellness and racial healing. A lot of our work is grounded in support and creating experiences to transform lives for families, for schools, for businesses, organizations, and government agencies. I have a background in public health. A lot of my work is grounded in infusing healing center practices into the work that we do so that we can really build the relationships to help transform our culture, to help transform our society, and really build healthy families, healthy communities, and healthy institutions that can propel and sustain the work for us to transform. I live in Oakland. I have 5 amazing children. I have 2 dogs. I love raspberries. My favorite color is purple, and it's happy to be here with you all. And I will pass it to Tori.
Thank you so very much, Mizan. Blessed afternoon, everyone. My name is Tori Johnson. Sounds like a stutter, but that is actually how you say my name. It is Tori. I have the wonderful pleasure of being a member of the Bese Saka initiative by way of the East Oakland Collective, which is the organization that I work for, and I currently play the role of the programs manager. We at the East Oakland Collective do racial and economic equity work for specifically DB Oakland, overall Oakland, with a hyper focus on DB Oakland. Historically, I started as a volunteer for EOC, which is what we are affectionately known for. Prior to that, I spent 19 years in medical business management. And so I like to say that I am here because of my hard work and my responsibility to my people. And so a little bit about me, I'm a mother of 1. I have a senior in high school. He just got his driver's license. I am also very staunchly and proudly in East Oakland. And I like donuts and ice cream are my love language. And that is all I will say about me.
Thank you, Tori. This is the last minute ad, but if Mama Cheryl is available to get on and also introduce herself, that'd be fantastic.
Hi, thank you, Brandon. My name is Cheryl Fabio. I just came on to Bese Saka about I'd say 3 months ago, maybe 4. I'm helping do administrative support. And
I'm not sure. I think you're muted.
is it clear now?
You're good now.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
No problem.
So let me start over. Cheryl Fabio. I am part of Bese Sake as the administrative support. I am a native of Oakland. I was raised here. And in addition to doing Bese Sake, I'm the executive director of an organization called Sarah Webster Fabio Center for Social Justice. We shorten that to SWIFT Center. And we are a arts-based nonprofit. A large portion of that is my documentary film practice, where we do social justice documentaries. We also are a fiscal sponsor for many other small groups that are kind of launching their programs. So thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you, Mama Cheryl. Appreciate that. So yes, so that is our tremendous Bese Sake core team, in addition to Tori as well, who's part of our advisory team, but we're very happy to have her here in this space. And I could kick us off by really telling the background about how Bese Sake came to be. And then after that, it'd be great to hear a little bit more from the Bese Sake team about the different parts of the initiative, how we're moving forward, and some of our thoughts for the future as well. So I'll start off, and if Sophia or Alexa can put up that the PowerPoint as well, that'd be great. Starting from slide 3. So the next slide would be great. And we'll have a time for speakers for questions at the end as well, folks, just to let everyone know. So Bese Sake, first and foremost, and sorry for being redundant, Q, but Bese Sake was chosen by the partner organization, the Brotherhood of Elders Network, and the name symbolizes a sack of cola nuts, which is really came from a West African community and tradition, and it represents affluence, abundance, and unity. Cola nuts was a major cash crop before, and that's what it stands for in our cycle. So if we can go to the next screen, please. But how Bese Sake began. So after the tragic murder of George Floyd, the community won, which is a big part of the beginning part of that video, which I really appreciate Quentin for highlighting, is that the community really pushed for this work, first of all. The community was fed up. It was for a number of things going on, but the Black community especially was reeling during that time. So much going on during that point. The foundation, to its great, listened, and we wanted to find out how best to really support folks in the Bay Area, especially Black-led organizations in the Bay Area, which we knew were very affected by the different things in our community at this point. So our first step was to connect with a large number of really Black-led groups and figure out, first of all, what their needs were, how best a foundation could support them during this time, and also to show solidarity. That was a time of one, we were right in the middle of the thrust of COVID. So organizations and folks were really working from their homes and scared and worried. So showing that we had solidarity with them and that they're not in this alone were one of our big parts, but also to information see how best, like I said, a foundation could be supportive. So the next slide would be great. After speaking to around over 30 BLOs, Black-led organizations, we found out a couple different themes. We found out, one, that folks really wanted multi-year generational operating funds. This is time of COVID, so folks were trying to respond to the needs of their community as fast as possible. Another one was capacity support. Their folks, they need support. They're especially because now organizations were being modeled from being in person to sometime being over Zoom or over technology. They need that support to really build their organizations in a number of ways, but that was another part they said. And the last part, which is something, this really last 2 parts, it was also a place of network, so to build relationships with other Black-led organizations, which is something that, we would hope happens more often, but it was needed during that point, and the healing support. Me remembering how it feels to be a director of an organization or be a staff of an organization, there's so much that you take in. I have a young person that was murdered this year in my organization, so I know and can very much feel the need for EDs and people who are running, and not just EDs, staff that are really supporting and leading these organizations to have that healing support. So with that information gathered, we went to our leadership and then asked them to really increase the foundation spending for $10 million over the next 5 years to focus on organizing, advocacy, and support for the Black community. And after that, you can go to the next and last part of mine, and then I'll turn it over to Quentin and the rest of the Bese Sake team to continue on with their work. After that, we met with a number of organizations that have done this before, one being the East Bay Community Foundation and their Ascend BLO program, to just learn more about how they're doing their work. And then what really came out of those conversations were that, one, Black-led organizations want a trusted person to convene them, right? And what we thought of and what we thought would be the best is someone from the community to do that. And so someone who was trusted, known, respected, and what we call an anchor organization for this work was the Brotherhood of Elders Network, who had been long since really entrenched in Oakland and in the community and in the Bay Area and all. So with that, I'd love to pass over to Quentin to continue on with telling you who we are and what we do.
Thank you, Brandon. I'm going to go ahead and share the presentation here. Let's see if it works out in the way I want it to. All right. All right. So just give me a thumbs up if you all can see that. Okay, fantastic. So yes, the Bese Saka initiative. Brandon, thank you for giving some of the background about the initiative, where we got the name from. I'd like to tell you a little bit about who the Brotherhood of Elders Network is. We are an intergenerational group of Black men, primarily made up of volunteers. And our mission is to create environments that can foster and support Black boys and young men to flourish. We believe that as older Black men, we have the best solutions and approaches to engage in our young folks that are male identified. We advocate for males of African ancestry from infancy through adulthood. We leverage our resources and relationships to benefit Black boys. We maintain cultural connections to our African heritage. And for this project, I wanted to highlight that one of the things we're committed to is we advance and preserve the health and wellness of our families and communities. Sometimes people often stereotype Black men and try to put us in some kind of a box. But I want to be clear that although our work is centered around Black men and boys, because that's who we were and who we are, we're committed to our entire community and to creating an environment where everyone can benefit. So sometimes people get a little bit tripped up because we're an all-male group. They think that all we do is focus on Black boys and young men, but that's not it. We focus on our whole community as well. So just to give you a little bit about what we've been doing, we were started about 2009 informally as just a group of Black men around the Bay Area, specifically Oakland, who were doing work in different sectors of our community. And some elders brought us together, one of which is Arnold Perkins, who is the former director of the Alameda County Public Health Department. And with his guidance, he put together a intergenerational group of Black men who were doing work. And so our idea was to come together and think about how we could best support each other to create systems changes that would allow younger men to flourish and to engage in community development work. Since that time, we've assumed that over 50 community partners. We've re-granted over $1 million to various Black-led organizations. We've served over 3,500 people through our art and culture events, and we've contributed over 20,000 hours of volunteer support through our various efforts. Our structure is very unique. As I mentioned, we are led by volunteers. We do not have a direct staff. Our board, which is made up of 10 people, it's intergenerational with positions at each level, 3 cohorts: younger men, middle-aged men, and elders. And that makes up our board. And our board really runs our organization along with our volunteers. So to support our leadership council is what we call our board of directors. We have our volunteer committees, which we have 6 committees that are chaired by 12 people, 2 people on each committee. And then we have a team of about 16 consultants, which I'm a part of, and so are some of the folks on this call. And so for our consultant team, we really provide a lot of guidance and support and work for the leadership council because they're nonprofit volunteers. And so when our ambitions and our projects get big, like the Bese Saka initiative, we usually rely on our consultant team to help our leadership council think through, manage, fundraise, and operate more bold initiatives. Our volunteers are self-directed and engage in projects and work that is appropriate for volunteers, right? We can't have volunteers running entire initiatives. That's just not fair for their work and their time. But they do a whole bunch of things that empower and create change in our community. But on this side of the house, for the Bese Saka initiative, it falls under our consultant team's management, as do a couple of our other projects. And at the center or the core or the base of our work, we have about 100 African-American men that show up on a yearly basis to support the functioning of the network. And we meet monthly to discuss a whole host of things with our volunteer network. So today, though, we're going to focus, obviously, on the Bese Saka initiative. As Brandon mentioned, the Bese Saka initiative was named after a concept that comes out of West Africa from the Akan language. It is one of the Adinkra symbols that you may see if you travel around West Africa, specifically in Ghana. And as Brandon mentioned, this is really a concept that inspires us to have what we need, to thrive in abundance and to be together and to build power. So we thought this was a very good representation of what we're trying to do in partnership with the San Francisco Foundation for Black-led orgs in the Bay Area. So what is this initiative and how does it operate? So we started with this grant from the San Francisco Foundation for 18 Black-led orgs to receive general support for 2 years. And in return for that support, they're asked to come to and participate in 8 quarterly convenings. Each organization is receiving a $75,000 grant each year, which I want to underscore, and I want to really thank the San Francisco Foundation for listening to our community and actually putting dollars behind the effort. It is not often that we get this kind of funding support in this way that allows us to remain flexible and does not eat up all of our time with various reports and various, legwork that we have to do with a lot of other grants. So it was really cool to see something like this. The Brotherhood of Elders Network also receives a 2-year general operating support grant to help run the initiative. In total, the foundation has invested over $3 million into this effort, which I don't know of another effort like this in my time doing this work. And so why are we doing this? So over the 2 years, our outcomes are to increase the capacity and the relationships among the Black-led organizations so that they can be more sustainable. We also are looking to create a stronger regional ecosystem of Black-led organizers, leaders, and funders. And we want to have a strong collaborative in the region that is aligned with the equity agenda and to amplify impact. The way that the Bese Saka initiative is structured, we have the 18 Black-led orgs that meet 4 times a year. Then we have 5 cohort reps that come from the various organizations. Tori is on the call today as one of those representatives. They help advise the process. So our management team puts together agendas, kind of supports the groups, but we check in with our cohort reps to make sure the experience is meeting the standards that we have. So they give us all kinds of advice on how our planning is going, how each session is, what the group may be needing in the future. And then we have a support team. We have guest facilitators that we bring in who have specialties in certain topics. And we also have media makers who help document this important initiative. For those of you who were on early, you saw the video that one of those media makers created for us. And the one that's, and wrapping the whole thing up is our 5-person project management team, who you met earlier through the introductions. Again, just in case you didn't hear those introductions, this is our management team, a very beautiful collaboration between us and the San Francisco Foundation. The Brotherhood of Elders Network brought on a couple of folks outside of our network to help us move this work forward. So we're very privileged to be able to reach out to partners in the community from Spirit Works and from the Sarah Webster Fabio Center. And so who is in this cohort? This wonderful assembly of 18 Black-led orgs. So you can see here, this is a list of all the orgs that are in our cohort. I'm just going to read them out in case someone's just listening. We have All of Us or None. We have the Anti-Police Terror Project. We have the Black LGBTQIA plus Migrant Project, the Black Organizing Project, Black Women Organized for Political Action, Community Housing and Development Corp, East Oakland Collective, Hidden Genius Project, Hospitality House, Live Free, Oakland Frontline Healers, Oakland Reach, Performing Stars of Marin, Priority Africa Network, Richmond Housing and Neighborhood Services, Safe Return Project, SF Black Wall Street, and Young Community Developers. So often we get asked, how did this cohort come to be? This was a joint effort by us and the foundation when we were discussing the initial concept of this initiative. So the San Francisco Foundation had certain organizations that they had been in relationship with, that they have been funding and have been advising and being advised by. And then the Brotherhood of Elders Network has a whole bunch of relationships and community as well. So we put our heads together and we had a few different criteria that we wanted to meet in this in bringing these groups together. Essentially, we were looking at groups that were working on power building and systems change and advocacy. And we wanted to make sure that we had representation from various parts of the Bay Area. And so we're very happy to say that we have groups that are representing all parts of the Bay Area, East Bay, the Peninsula, even in the Contra Costa. So we wanted to make sure that we could bring folks together across the region. We all know that Oakland is the home of the Black community in the Bay Area, but our folks are all over. So it's really important for us to make sure that we could get organizations that may not usually end up in these spaces because they're far away from Oakland or they might be small. So we really are happy that we were able to assemble a pretty diverse group in terms of their leadership, in terms of the work that they do, and in terms of the geography and the population that they serve. Earlier, you saw a video that we put together. That video came from our first in-person convening. Because of the pandemic, for a while, we've had online meetings, but in August, we got together with our 18 organizations for the first time, and we documented that to share with folks so that they can get an understanding of how it felt to be in space together. But I want to turn it over now to Tori Johnson, who is one of our participants representing the East Oakland Collective, to share her perspective around how the initiative has been going and how her organization is benefiting from this effort. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to turn it over to Tori, and then I have one more slide before we move into general questions and answers.
Thank you so very much for that, Quentin. That's I'm always so delighted to hear over and over and over again, believe it or not, about the Bese Saka initiative, and even more overjoyed and honored really to be a part of it. How did I get so lucky? I wouldn't really say it's luck. I consider myself to be bound by responsibility and then good fortune to be on this side of things, being a Black woman walking the streets of Oakland, California. And so just to reiterate, I am the programs manager for the East Oakland Collective, and we do racial and economic equity work through our programs in our 4 focus areas, those being food and supply distribution through homeless services and solutions, economic empowerment, civic engagement and leadership, and formerly neighborhood and transportation planning, but now community planning. Particularly, like I said, we do that with a hyper focus for Deep East Oakland. And in that, being invited to the Bese Saka table is very important, because we being EOC are advocates of the people of Oakland, the people of East Oakland. And what I find most profound about the initiative itself is us being able to gather in what comes from that. I'm super, super in awe, in all honesty, about what comes from every time we gather. There's, something magical, not to put too much extra on it, but there really is something that is very fruitful about when we as Black people in particular get together and discuss our things. There's, something that there's certain things that this doesn't come with in us having to navigate other spaces. We don't have to come with certain masks or certain guises. And so the very healing nature of what Bese Saka is and what it provides and what it promotes and what it stands for is imperative to what we are trying to do together, which is, our shared mission and shared purpose really is to find liberation through healing. And the Bese Saka initiative, for sure, not only offers, but it encourages and again promotes and demands really that we take the time to do that and invite others in and let them know that it's important to do as well. And so just the experience of it overall, I wish, I want to invite, everybody should come and do this. Everybody should come and talk about, these different things and really be in safe spaces to do so. Because I think that's one of the things that, in being Black, you got to convince folks that your existence is supposed to be a thing. That may be lost in some folks, but we live it. And so in that, since we have to convince anyone of anything, what we first need to do is convince ourselves that we deserve to be here and to heal together in that, so that we can, continue to do the work of moving forward and progressing in the world collectively, because it is ours to do, despite the fact that, the majority of our traumas are not self-imposed, right? But nevertheless, here we are. But collectively and openly and safely, the more that we are able to do that, because it is imperative, the further we will get. Capitalism and finances are probably not going to go anywhere. So those things are uber helpful to this cause just in general. But for us, it's a cause for always, because like I said, our shared purpose is liberation through our own healing. And oftentimes, especially now in 2022, we have a lot of conversations to have amongst ourselves. And that is what we've been able to do in full with the Bese Saka initiative, and again, open the door and offer that invitation to others to say, hey, I see you out there working and doing whatever, come and share your experience of how it is that you're managing to stick and move and deal and move forward the needle in the ways that you are. As I mentioned, we do food and supply distribution in our homeless services and solutions departments. And I myself am literally out in the streets regularly. And although, it does come with certain praise and accolades and things like that, if you're not in it, folks don't really realize how heavy that is. And that I'm not saying that at all for anyone to take it and be like, oh, poor Tori, because again, I'm fortunate to be on this side of it, and I don't want to forget that. But in that, I can sit amongst others in the Bese Saka initiative and other places and openly speak to, hey, I'm out here serving my people, but that is weighty. And it comes with, how do you navigate encountering someone with a mental health challenge, and that's not I don't have no experience in that, but I have to use my heart here, right? Like, and also got to watch my car because I need to be aware of where I am and, all these different things. But again, to enter into a space, to share a space with other folks who are doing different things in the same vein and in different ways, because our plight is big, it's expansive. And so all of us have to take a role on this kind of ship here, and to be able to do that together, to know that like, hey, also when I need to take a break, there are others to remind me that that's okay to do, to continue on, to pause for the cause, to keep going, right? And so like I said, I can say it over and over again, but it is imperative that we continue to do this, and having anyone support, particularly financially, because that's an inescapable avenue, is, what can I say? So I think I'll end it there.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tori. And just want to remind folks, Tori is one of our advisors as well. So she comes as a participant to the convenings with the other groups, but we also get to meet with her and a few others in between sessions to get their feedback and opinions. So it's been really, really, really dope getting to know her and getting to get some advice from her about how things are going. So I have just one more slide that I want to share with you all. So hold on one second here. And so what is the future for the Bese Saka initiative? As we've mentioned, the initiative was started with the foundation granting money to the organizations. And the idea was it is a 2-year initiative. We are in year 1. We're almost done with our first 4 quarterly convenings. But we already are pretty clear that we may need 1 more year. It looks like there are so many different ideas and great energy coming out of the first gatherings we've done that we might want to spend 1 more year at the end, kind of doing some implementation or supporting some of the groups to get together in ways that they've imagined. But we'd also like to do another cohort at some point. So for us, we're looking to secure 1 to 2 more foundation partners. The San Francisco Foundation has taken a great opportunity to be more bold. As you saw in the video, they set aside $10 million to help fund work like this and work in other communities like this. And we want to see other foundations be as bold and match their kind of effort. San Francisco Foundation does have resources, but they're not the biggest foundation in California. We have others. So we like to get 1 or 2 more foundation partners on board. We'd also like to raise 5 to 10% of our budget annually from individual donors. That's going to be anywhere from $150,000 to $300,000 a year. And we want to, as I mentioned, add 1 more year of programming, turn this into maybe a 3-year initiative. And last but not least, we want to invite cohort number 2 to participate with us sometime in 2024 to 2026. So with the help of folks like you who are on this call, we hope that we can make that happen so that we can continue to build up the power and the capacity of Black-led organizations so that they can continue to do the good work that we all need done. Because unless you don't have humanity in your morals and your values, then you should understand that the work that we do to serve the Black community is work that benefits everybody, not just Black people. So with that said, I'll turn it back over to our host for questions and answers and discussion.
Thank you, Q. I appreciate that. And we'll now open up for questions. But before that, just to, again, spotlight and highlight, and definitely if Brother Aman or Sister Mazan or Mama Cheryl want to add as well, there's something special from a former ED and also from now working as a program officer for the foundation about the uniqueness of this space. It's a space not governed by a foundation. We support this space, but the communities are ones that are running this. And that's a big part of the difference and what sets this aside than the other, and the healing aspect. So Tori really gave a really good background about the feeling that they feel, but really, you know, when I see people conversing and bring in, it's the healing, it's the network, and it's the strategy. There's not many times when there's a strategy and organizations like these are able to come together in a safe space and also be supported to come together, right? In the past, it would be, I had to come together, but I'm missing some grants I had to write. So having the opportunity to do that, and if Sister Mazana or Aman want to add anything before we go to question and answer, but definitely questions and answers following this, whoever would like to go first.
I could just really quickly add that one of the things that I really appreciate about the format and the structure of the Bese Saka initiative is the focus around relationships. So much of our work is around really building the trust and the cohesion and the collective work and consciousness of the folks that are in the room together. And one of the things that we understand is that, change moves at the speed of trust, but trust moves at the speed of relationships. And so in order for us to be able to build and transform our society and our culture and the conditions that folks are living in, we have to build the relationships in order to build that trust in order to transform what we're living in. And so we really appreciate y'all having time and thoughts to really think about what this means and how you can support. And we would love to hear more of what you're thinking about, how you can relate with us to continue to move this forward. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly add, I think, folks have, summed up all the value of this initiative. But one thing, just in my experience, working with different coalitions where there's different, nonprofits working in coalition together, it's usually about, trying to stop some harm that's happening. So, a lot of advocacy coalitions are centered around criminal justice reform. One thing that's really unique and powerful about the Bese Saka initiative is that folks are working together to identify collective priorities, to understand how collective power can be built and how a common agenda can be developed through the time they spend together in these sessions and in between sessions, getting to know each other. Oftentimes these orgs are their bandwidth is really limited to do anything beyond the services they provide, the advocacy that they do, the organizing they do. So to give some of these EDs and some of their more senior staff opportunities to build together to really identify common priorities, it's actually really powerful and something that we want to continue to build on, in some form at some space, in some space, like regardless of who supports it. But really grateful for this opportunity to do this through the SF Foundation.
Yep. Now, please, Charlie, your hand is up first. Please go ahead. Good question.
Yeah, it's been really enlightening to see all of you together and to look at the synergy between the groups cooperating and communicating. I had a question about how you choose the organizations to be in there in this collective. And for example, when I looked at what Brotherhood of the Elders does, which I'd never heard of until today, and I was trying to compare it to 100 Black Men of the Bay Area, which I understand fairly well. How would you differentiate between what Brotherhood of the Elders does and 100 Black Men of the Bay Area does? And was that organization considered as possibly part of this collective? And if so, why? Or if not, why or why not?
I think Quentin and I can both answer that question. Quentin, you want to go first, and then I can go after you?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that, Charlie. So yeah, we definitely are aware of the 100 Black Men of the Bay Area. In fact, some people are a part of both groups. But in my experience, I'm not a part of 100 Black Men of the Bay Area. But in my experience working with them or with others in that group, they have a little bit of a more narrow focus than we do. Part of our mission is going beyond supporting Black men to supporting our community in general. And from the time we were founded, we're also intergenerational, which is not something that I believe that 100 Black Men emphasize. It might be something that happens for them. But for us, we are deliberately intergenerational, and we're also volunteers. And our kind of purview goes a little bit outside of Black males specifically, although that is, a focus of our work. And the last thing I'll say is one of the reasons that a group like that might not have been chosen for the cohort for a number of reasons. Anybody in our group who didn't get chosen is really comes down to a couple of things. We can only have 18. So there's a lot of groups that we wish we could have included in this process that we just wouldn't be able to because of the funding wasn't there for more groups. And we wanted to be geographically diverse. So part of what went into us selecting the cohort, it was to look at people and organizations that were dedicated to power building and advocacy. So that was a really big part of what we wanted to do, power building and advocacy. And then we also wanted to have representation from around the Bay Area. And the last piece I'll say is we also wanted those groups to be diverse in the way that they approached power building and advocacy. We didn't want a whole bunch of small, groups that just started, and we didn't want a whole bunch of groups that have been around, that have been well resourced. So we tried to make a diverse cohort. And, anytime you do things like that, they're going to be great groups that could be in, but may not have been able to come into the initial cohort. But we definitely want to continue to build. The last thing I'll say is that we have another initiative in the Bay Area called Ascend BLO, which is housed at the East Bay Community Foundation. And they've worked with over 400 Black-led orgs. But their initiative is much more big in that way. And so they don't get the chance to get as directly connected and as intimate as we can with our 18. So, different sizes of programs allow, different kinds of things to happen. Ours happens to be an 18 or cohort where we can really get intimate with the groups. But there are other efforts that perhaps groups like the 100 Black Men of the Bay Area can fold into.
And lastly, the another part is we are funding 100 Black Men through another kind of offshoot also from this initiative as well, of a project we did with Meta. And we'll continue, just like Quentin said, they're a great organization, and we hope to continue to partner with them in other ways. And that's why we're hoping to be able to extend this also as well. But I think Quentin said a good portion of it. And that's Charlie. You have another question, and Nicole also. Well, Charlie, go ahead, and then we can ask another question as well. Oh, did you still? Okay, I'm sorry. I thought your hand was still up.
No, well, no. Thank you very much for the answer. Appreciate that.
I think there was another question I see of how will learnings from this initiative infuse happenings in other parts of the foundation. So this, and what a big part, and what I was going to say, Charlie, is another part of this, and to your question about how the organizations were, how we chose certain organizations, is a push for us also to really be involved in trust-based philanthropy, right? Like that was a phrase that was really coming to the forefront during this time. So, we've had, and the foundation has obviously been the one to select a lot of organizations in the past. We really wanted to give that power to the ones on the ground doing the work, and have some support for them to do that. But instead of us making the decisions, that's also why the San Francisco Foundation isn't inside per se of this Bese Sake Coalition. We're supporting it, and I go to meetings, but I'm really just there to support them however we ever can best. They're the ones really driving the work. So in other initiatives, it might be foundations driving these ideas, foundations driving the outcomes. This is the community driving this. This is what is unique about this space, and also how we chose these organizations. We really relied on, and we also did some of offshoot where we had the Bese Sake, a group of 18 organizations, make recommendations for another 11 Black-led organizations that we did a Meta grant. Meta gave us a small grant to go to Black-led organizations, and we used the cohort of Bese Sake cohort to make the recommendations about who this should go to. And that's the type of trust-based philanthropy that we're trying to really build in of this partnership, but also really rely on the experts. And they're the experts. The folks on the ground doing the work, knowing the folks, knowing what's happening are the experts. So we're trying to lead into that relationship. And that's hopefully also how we can build into the foundation more. Hopefully in November, we'll be doing a connecting for an all staff meeting, letting folks know about a little bit more in a little detail about what's happening with Bese Sake. But that is the relationship. I meet with the Bese Sake team almost every other week, pretty much, to see what we're doing, and not from a check and balances of what they're doing, but see how we can support best, see how we can build together best. This is a partnership, and that's what Mazan said. It's about building this trust and relationship between these orgs and how we're working together. So. Any other questions from folks? All right. Well, if not, I definitely would like to see, we have a few minutes left. If we wanted to give the Bese Sake team, if anyone had any closing thoughts that they want to give, it'd be wonderful to hear them, starting off with whomever. And I can go first too, if you like. Our system is on, if you'd like to start, or whomever. From our team.
Since you're pulling me in, sure, I'll
Right.
just say that I'm really thankful for this conversation. I mean, again, you know, we are about the relationship, so we would love to hear, you know, how this is sitting with y'all. If this sounds interesting, inspiring, crazy, like wild, like whatever word it might be, we would just love to hear, you know, some feedback, some connection with these beautiful humans that have taken this time of this hour-long conversation. We'd love to hear how it sits with y'all, really. I see the chat happening.
Yeah, and just one thing I'll add is, you know, some of the conversations we have, you know, we realize that there's other types of support that would be really welcome and would add value to the work of the orgs and the cohort. So, you know, we talk about things like land acquisition, things like nonprofits developing their own investment portfolios so they can, you know, try to, you know, generate additional reserves for their organizations. Sometimes there's, you know, desires to form C4s, but there's not always, you know, a Rolodex of attorneys that are willing to provide some of those services to establish those. So, you know, there are other ways. I think in addition to dollars, that there's other types of capital that would be really welcome in this space. And so I would just encourage folks to, you know, think about that and certainly reach out if we think there are resources we can connect to some of the grantees in this cohort.
One last thought I would love to share. As we get into this work and we're speaking with folks who are donors and are interested in supporting initiatives like this, I will say to you all that part of the struggle that I feel like I have as a Black leader, so to speak, in this work, is doing this work for so long and seeing what happened in 2020 being what was necessary to get people to pay attention. And I think it's such a tragedy because I do believe that there are tons of funders, donors alike, that have started to be more interested in investing and donating into Black community. And I question their motivation. We need the resources, no doubt, right? So we'll take them and we'll make them the best that we can. But I question, are they donating because they have a fear that something like 2020 will happen again, where you see people take the streets and protest and engage in all kinds of direct action? Or are people donating out of love because they see a group of people who have been in this country and have been oppressed for hundreds of years and understand that as long as we have people oppressing our country, none of us can be free? So I question, what are the motives? And if you're one who is motivated by love of people instead of fear, then those are the kind of donors we want.
Oh, I love that, Q. Thank you. I'm just going to veggie back and add this quote. I don't know if you all are familiar with a woman named Lynn Twist, but she's amazing. But she speaks to this piece around how money given to make a difference does, right? And so if there's a way that we are wanting to honor the difference that you really want to make with the donations that you make, it will make a difference because it's given with that intention. And so we just welcome and encourage those kinds of contributions that will help support transforming our world, because we in this together. I am because we are, y'all. Thank you.
And Mama Cheryl, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Brandon. You know, I just wanted to reiterate what Tori was saying about the weight of doing this work in communities like Deep East Oakland, like there's a lot going on. It weighs hard because, you know, you're not just identifying with the folks in the street, you are the folks in the street. And so to have to bear that burden while you're also underfunded, under-resourced, unable to gather that kind of community support that a group like Bese Sake is offering, that's huge. And so thank you for lifting it up to Tori. That was an important statement.
Thank you. Thank you. To Tori, you want to say something as well? That'd be great.
Well, yeah, Mama Cheryl, you're welcome. That number one, thank you all for us, as always, for again opening the door, thinking to do this, inviting us all to sit and have a conversation. If I may leave it with any of y'all, we all have some level of influence over something somewhere. And in this particular space, I would gather that some of you have influence over, to Sister Mizan's point, to offering something that has and it will have a grand effect in someone else's life beyond your own. Being someone who intentionally connects with those who need, daily. I would strongly encourage you to think about my brother Quentin's, statement about how it is and where it is that you're operating from, and be unafraid in looking at yourself and doing so to start. Because that, is heaviest of all, I think, in looking at ourselves and recognizing that we may hold things that don't feel or don't look or don't sound good, right? But we all have to start there. And in that same vein, wherever it is that you're on the scale of where you're operating from and using that influence, I hope that you try to slide it to the side of loving for the love of humanity, because ultimately, for sure, when you elevate everyone to a space of them having and they are able to find and maintain their own healing, fear grows less and less for everybody.
Yeah.
So if there's anything that I would be able to leave you with, it would be today and every day beyond this. When you're making your decisions that have a potential influence over something else, use Brother Quinton's example of the scale of where you're operating from, whether that's a love or fear, spectrum, and try to slide it as far to the right as you possibly can, closer to love, because that's really all that we're trying to do. Those of us that are here, I know for sure, are never going to stop, regardless of how heavy it is. As long as my skin is black, I will be in the streets. I can promise you that. Your money most certainly will be helpful, but even more helpful will be you choosing to operate in the side of solidarity with the decency of humanity and living that beyond the exchange of money. So I thank you all for sharing space with me and giving me the opportunity to speak. And hopefully I see you in the streets and you come and join me. Because we
Yeah, that's fantastic story. And just on the last note from me, that's the space we would like to be in too. Where while this is a space that we have intentionally created to support Black community, we definitely want to offer all folks in to see how we can support this work, and not just our work, but work of all of ours. So we definitely want to see what partnerships we can do in the future, and spaces not just for us to connect around money, but connect around opportunities. So let's just continue that really going. And with that, Nicole, I'd love to hear from you to take it from there.
Great. Thank you, everyone, so much for your time. Quentin, for reminding us that we were coming together around solidarity and reimagining love and power as we were in this conversation together today, and heard a really significant call to action in how we think about showing up in solidarity and in support of this work. So folks will see in the chat that there are many opportunities to engage in this work. You'll receive a follow-up email as well. Thank you to the speakers and leaders. I'm truly in awe and hold so much gratitude for each of you and the work that you're doing, and feel so honored to be in this space with you. Thank you all for sharing your afternoon with us, and feel free to reach out to any of the San Francisco Foundation staff with any questions, and would love to continue to connect you to this work. Thank you all. Have a great afternoon.
Well, take care,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone. Be well.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care.